But we're back for day 2, and right now we're going to get Steve's list of area majority and territory control games.
That's right, so hold on to your chair. So you're going for a ride.
Oh, God, yeah, hold on.
The 1980s brought us a lot of things. Giant walls, threat of nuclear winter, a booming economy.
It did? I don't know that any of those are right, because I think walls came down.
Yeah.
It came down in the late 80s. Anyway.
Yeah, anyways, Steve.
It also brought us a theme of my first pick, Twilight Struggle.
That's true. Yeah, totally based on the Cold War.
Right.
Which was the 60s, not the 80s. What are you even talking about?
It lasted through to this.
The Cold War
ended in the 80s.
It was around for a while. Anyway, Twilight Struggle.
Again.
We got to keep him in check.
Yeah, I know, right?
You know what?
He's just making stuff up.
Nobody would notice, though, like random incorrect things I call out if you two wouldn't bring it up.
Yeah, well, you got to start looking at the comments.
That's where the trolls go, man.
Yeah, right?
Anyway, Twilight Struggle is a 2-player game, and this is an oldie, and it was the most popular game on Board Game Geek for so long until it was upset by some legacy games.
To the point where I was like, I have to buy this game to figure out why everybody's freaking out about this game.
Yeah, it's classic. People just love it, man.
And yeah, it was actually really cool.
Oh yeah,
it was interesting.
It is awesome, and if you haven't played it before, you can pick it up online. I think Steam has it, and I think it might be on iOS too.
Yeah, I've mostly played it on Steam. I played it on the table with Chris a couple times, but
yeah, I mostly play it on Steam too. And I lose horribly when I play other people. But I can beat the computer sometimes. Anyway, so picture a map of the world, basically, and each country can be influenced by either the Soviets or the Allies. And the influence then is broken down into zones. And once in a while, random scoring will come up. And then if, say, the Middle East pops up and you have the most influence in there, you score that region. You get big points. And that's the purpose of this game. You're trying to get the influence. You're trying to get a feel for what the next hot area is going to be that it might come up. Mm-hmm. You want to just kind of have your presence all over the board. So you're a global power, and whatever might come up, you can adjust and capture those points. Doing that is done through playing a series of cards that you get. And the cards are interesting because they could be more valuable for the Americans than the Soviet, but the Soviet player might get it in their hand. Mm-hmm. So they have to determine if they want to play that at all, because it might behoove their opponent to do it. Or, they might just not have any other choice. They have to play it. Mm-hmm. So the timing of when you play is important too. And all that makes this a very replayable game.
Mm-hmm. I think most of the replayability for me comes in the fact that which is one of its biggest negatives for me too, is the fact that if you come in cold, like you've never played this game before, because Chris bought it, and we played it just together.
Yeah, we just sat down and played it. Yep.
And we had no idea what was going on. Like we had no idea where to go on the board or what to do. We were just doing stuff, and it was a big blowout because we accidentally,
I did. I accidentally triggered the nuclear war.
Oh, that's right. That's how it ended, right?
I was just like,
I won because you accidentally triggered nuclear war.
I was like, I was doing really good, and all of a sudden I was like, oh crap! I just called World War III.
Yeah,
thanks,
sorry,
Chris.
and I win.
Jamie won.
But see, that's I think both its best point for it, for positive point for it, and its biggest negative is if you're coming in cold, it's not going to be a good game. It's going to suck. You're going to be like, well, I don't like this game. It sucks. What am I?
You have to play it a couple times.
And then as soon as you get acclimated to everything about the game, it starts to become very fun. Mm-hmm. And that's where the replayability comes, because it really is a historical game. It follows history very closely. And if you know history very well of the Cold War, you can kind of get a vibe of where things are going to go, where the hot spots of the world are going to be as the game progresses through its phases. And you start to get to know all the cards. You need to know every card to play it competently, right? Like you have to expect cards.
Not only every card, but you have to know when they get introduced in the game.
Right.
Because certain scoring cards show up at different periods of the game. And if you don't know that, or know what cards are available to you and your opponent and what they could potentially do, you could really mess it up, which is what we ran into.
Sure.
We didn't know what the cards were, and all of a sudden we're just like, well, I wasn't prepared for that.
Whoops.
Yeah.
And but the coolest thing about this game is that it is equated to frequently on Board Game Geek to chess. And I think it is very much like that. When you read the forums, as the strategy forums on BGG, they talk about opening moves.
Right.
What is the US's best opening move? If Russia goes here, you should go here. Just stuff like that. People really analyze this game. And for longest time, I busted on it for being number one on Board Game Geek. But you know what? I got to say, I think it deserved it. It was a very well done, strategic game that I think would appeal to a lot of different gamers.
And it stands the test of time.
Yeah.
It does. And it's replayable. I mean, I agree there are certain strategies that are the best ones to employ and the best counter moves, and a lot of time has to be put in the game to learn that.
And none of us know those, so it's
So we just fumble through it.
If you're playing an experienced player, you're probably not going to fare too well.
Yeah, that's right.
But you will learn. You'll pick up. You'll learn their moves. You'll learn to counter them. It is very much like chess. I would agree with that statement.
This is definitely a game that I could see, like Steve and I, or Chris and I, sitting on the porch when we're 80 years old at an old folks' home. Say, all right, every afternoon we're going to play Twilight Struggle. Come on, Chris, it's Twilight Struggle time.
We're no longer forced there because of the snow. We're forced there because we can't leave.
Yeah, right? Good pick, Steve. Great.
Thank you,
Twilight
thank you.
Struggle, like it.
Yes. My second pick is it was a huge hit. Tony Topper wouldn't stop talking about it
That's for
years
sure.
and years.
Oh
and
my
years.
goodness.
It is Blood Rage. This is a amazing game in the territory control vein because you are fighting over what do they call that? The tree, life Yggdrasil.
Yggdrasil.
I'm not Norwegian. But you're fighting over this tree. And it's like Kemet in that it's a historical mashup, right? You have Viking dudes, and then you have Norse monsters influenced by the gods. There's a lot of stuff going on there. And each zone, as the game progresses, zones get blocked off. So you're kind
Ragnarok
of funneled.
comes.
Yeah, Ragnarok's creeping upon you. And you have to make your move. You have to score while you can. It gets tougher. I mean, this is another really replayable game. And I love it.
See, what I think makes this game great is that, yes, it's a territory control game. Area majority, I guess, but territory control, really. I mean, there's nothing, second place gets nothing. But what's great about this game is the draft. And all of the strategies of the game come in the draft. This is one of those elegant game designs in which the game itself is dirt simple to play. There aren't that many mechanics. It's so easy to teach. But there's a level of complexity and depth to the game that comes all in the cards. All the strategies are in the cards. You collect combos of cards and employ them onto your board, and you go forward with those strategies, and you're trying to piece together the greatest set of combos so that you can take over everything and score the most points. Freaking awesome game. Love it.
And I've noticed this more and more as I play more drafting games. I realized it with Terraforming Mars recently, is with a drafting game, it is so reliant that you consider the concept of denying a card to somebody is just as important as getting a card that's good for you.
They call that hate drafting.
Well, but you have to do it. You have to do it. And I think in Blood Rage, more so than any other game, not only do you have to do it, but you have to hope that the other players are experienced enough to do it themselves.
Yeah, because sometimes you got to take this card and you pass it to Steve, and you're like, I hope Steve knows not to let Chris get that.
Yes. Or it gets around to you and you're like, okay, I got this. And then you realize somebody passed Jamie this insane card. Why would you do that?
It happens.
But it happens all the time. It was very frustrating for me the first time I played it because I didn't know the cards. I didn't know the strategies. And I really was not heavy into these kind of games then. In fact, I think Blood Rage may have been the one that really pushed me to get into this style of gaming.
It did upset you.
It did. It really. I had like 5 tubes of butt cream sitting in the bathroom that night because it hurt really bad.
He was lapped like twice.
Oh, it was bad. But I want to play it again because I think I've gotten better. I think I understand the concepts better now. So I want to give this game another try. I don't want to tell Tony about it because he'll talk about it forever. But I got to do it. I got to play it again.
So Chris could not conquer Norway.
No. The Norwegian Vikings conquered me really bad.
Yep.
Well, I'll tell you what. One thing I really like about Blood Rage is the models.
Oh,
Oh, they're cool.
They're amazing.
The models, I think, are what drew a lot of people to Rising Sun. Not only the gameplay,
Yes.
but Rising Sun, the big thing was the models are even better than Blood Rage. And everybody's like, oh, I got to see these models. I remember going to CMON Expo, and all I wanted to do was see the Rising Sun models that were better than Blood Rage.
Blood Rage, yeah.
And sure enough, they were.
Uh-huh.
I'm curious to know what people think if Rising Sun is better than Blood Rage in this department. But I think
As far as miniatures or as far as gameplay?
as far as this style of gameplay, I think
It's different. They're
Yeah.
different. They're very similar styles, but the games are very different. As a matter of fact, the way I do it is I say, okay, if I have 5 or 6 players, definitely going with 4, 5, or 6. I'll go with Rising Sun. 3 or 4, I'll go Blood Rage. So if there's a 3-player count there, or 4, sorry, if there's a 4-player count there, I could go either way. But they're all dependent on player count.
yeah,
Yeah.
For me.
I agree.
good pick, Steve.
Yeah,
Thank
good
you.
one.
Thank you, thank you.
So what's your final there, Steve?
All right, my third and final pick reaches back to my Dungeons and Dragons roots. It is Tyrants of the Underdark.
Ooh,
It's a neat one.
Yes.
The Drow.
Right. In this game, you play one of the clans of Drow that are under the Sword Coast area. And you are competing against these other clans. And this is an interesting one, right? Because you're building pathways to connecting these underground cities, and then you're like conquering them, and then you're continuing on. So it's like a route building / conquering / point scoring type of game.
So they're digging tunnels in the game, essentially.
They're already there.
Oh,
They're
okay.
just you're marching your forces. You need supply lines
Oh, okay.
to like supply your
I
troops
gotcha.
and stuff.
Right, yeah.
And to continue pushing on, you have to build the supply lines, and then you have to actually conquer the cities.
And not only that, Steve, you said all those mechanics. The main mechanic is deck building.
That's
there's
right.
another one for Underdark,
So yeah, there's a lot going on in this game.
for sure.
But it is worth the time. I think there's 5 different cards you can play, 5 different like factions within your house. There's assassins and there's recruiting
Right,
and there's
yeah.
all kinds of other stuff. And the deck building is a lot of fun. So is the route planning is a lot of fun too, because you see, you want to go over here and you see Chris and Jamie are kind of trickling over that way. What do? Do you give up or do you go all in and try to get there first?
The one thing I love about D&D in general is it's a great theme to tack on to any game mechanic,
Right,
any
yeah.
game style. And it's a way to introduce new players because you can say, hey, I got this game, Tyrants in the Underdark. It's Drow. And our buddy Jessica would be like, I want to try it.
Yeah, for sure.
And
That's right.
it doesn't matter. You just like tricked him into playing this style of game he probably would not play. But sometimes that's all you got to do.
Right.
Is you got to have that in so that they sit down, they're excited, they play the game, and really get into that style. And then you can say, okay, well, you like that. Here's this other one. D&D is fantastic for that.
I know. It worked for Lords of Waterdeep too.
Exactly.
And it's the only thing I will say about Tyrants of the Underdark is it took me a year to actually play the game. And the reason was because I didn't think it looked that good.
That was my first
The
impression.
components are kind of ugly. The colors are all muted. And it's like,
And it's a little pricey.
And it is pricey for what you get too.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, the minute I played it, I got it and played it, I forgot all that. I actually enjoy the way it looks now simply because the game sort of like the gameplay made me feel better about it. So it's, if you're worried about that kind of thing, I would try it because
Well,
I think it's good enough that it transcends its components being a little bit off.
Sometimes those games, you see them on the table, because I remember seeing Tyrants at Gen Con, and I was like, yeah. Because I made a beeline. I was like,
Right,
I got to
me too.
see this game. And I went and I saw it, and I was like, that's it?
Yeah, that's what you get. $70 for that?
But
Yeah.
but sometimes the gameplay, the board itself helps facilitate awesome gameplay.
Sure.
So the rest of the game actually makes the board make sense and you appreciate it more. So looking at it on the table, it kind of makes me think of The Expanse, which when you look at it, doesn't look like a lot,
Sure.
but it's a fantastic game, right?
Right.
So
Yeah, it is.
you just gotta
Expanse
get over
almost
that.
made it on my list. That's a really fun one too.
Really? Cool.
Yeah.
Almost.
Awesome.
Excellent pick, Steve. Your list is 100% good. For the first time, it's 100% good. You didn't put Ouija on it this time.
Wow. Too bad it's not 110% good like my list.
Excellent pick, Steve. Excellent pick. I'm so happy with your list this time.
Thank you.
Well, we're going to come back tomorrow. We're going to get my list, which 100% good, 110% good, 150% good tomorrow. Right?
Oh, that's greedy.
What kind of scale
I'm
are
just
you weighing
confident.
these games on?
All right, well, we'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks so much, everybody. If you've enjoyed this video, please do us a giant favor by subscribing to the channel and clicking that wacky bell icon. If you're into board games, miniatures games, role-playing games, we have a bunch of audio podcasts you might enjoy. You can find those at thesecretcabal.com or on iTunes and Stitcher.